Smith Show on Indy Sports Ticket, 1430 AM, 93.9 HD2, and always on the free Indy Sports Ticket app.
What's going on? Welcome into the real Jonathan Smith Show here on Indy Sports Ticket. Thank you for tuning in, no matter how you're tuning in. Whether that's YouTube, Indy Sports Ticket, if you want to head over there, subscribe, watch the stream, be part of the conversation, all that good stuff. You can also watch on X, __ Jonathan Smith, to follow me there and watch the show there. You can also listen on the Indy Sports Ticket app, which you can download wherever you find your apps. Now, oh man, the Colts with a golden opportunity on Sunday to go and improve to 4-1. That's what should happen. So it should happen, right? Like, they are a 6.5-point favorite for a reason. And one of those reasons is Daniel Jones, who's playing really well through the first month of the season, right? Doing a really good job of just keeping the Colts on schedule, right? Keeping them in 3rd and 3 or less. You know, making good plays on first down, because you know that Shane Steichen is going to come out throwing the football as he always does. And this should be another big day from Daniel Jones on Sunday. That's what we should get, because this Raiders secondary is not very good. Xavier Howard could start for the Raiders. It's the second worst secondary that the Colts have played this year, behind the Miami Dolphins. Well, Jonathan, what about the Tennessee Titans? Well, I mean, at least the Tennessee Titans have L'Jarius Sneed, a guy who, you know, when healthy, has been, you know, probably one of the 10 best corners in the NFL. You know, on Sunday, Daniel Jones is going to be throwing at guys like Eric Stokes and Caillou Blue Kelly. You don't even know who that is, right? And that's not me, you know, making fun of you. That's just reality of it, right? Unless you're a Raiders fan, like, you don't know who that guy is. This is the 23rd ranked pass defense in the NFL in both yards per attempt and yards allowed per game. This is a bad secondary. No, just there's simply no other way to put it. It looks like the Colts are going to be healthy with all their wide receivers. I know Michael Pittman Jr. didn't practice yesterday, but I'm sure he'll be fine. If he doesn't practice today, then there will be reason to be concerned. But, I mean, we haven't seen the practice report yet for today, so we don't really know yet. So as of right now, I am not concerned. The thing, though, that could make Sunday tough, that could make things easier on this horrendously bad Las Vegas Raiders secondary, is the fact that they have this guy named Max Crosby, who, whenever he plays football, just seems to have a huge impact on every game that he plays in. I don't know if you watched him last week at home against the Bears, and he just made Caleb Williams' life miserable to a point where Caleb Williams was just like, yeah, that's the best player that I've played against in the NFL. And he walked away from that game. If you watch it, like, yeah, like, I see why he has that opinion. That dude chased him everywhere. And despite being an absolute monster, he's only got 2 sacks on the year. But he's getting doubled every snap. And he should get doubled every snap, because he's Max freaking Crosby, a guy who signed a huge deal in the offseason and is worth every single penny of it. And he's one of the definitely 10 best pass rushers in the NFL. Probably one of the 8 best pass rushers in the NFL. And if you wanted to tell me he was one of the 5 best pass rushers in the NFL, I'd be like, yeah, I can see how you got, or how you have that opinion of him. But he's only got two sacks on the year. But it's okay, because it opens up room for former Colt Jonah Lalu to have 3 sacks through 4 games. Lalu, former 6th-round pick, if I remember correctly, of Chris Ballard, and the Colts didn't make the roster his rookie year, and he got picked up immediately. And now he's playing for the Raiders and having a really nice time. Gee, wouldn't it be lovely if the Indianapolis Colts were a little bit better at defensive tackle? Would love to have a guy like Jonah Lalu hanging out on this roster right now. But when it comes to the game on Sunday, The Raiders have a real pass rush. That is what they have. And if the Colts offensive line can hold up, then it should be a really fun day watching this Indianapolis Colts offense. Because they're going to be able to throw it all over the yard. Jonathan Taylor, one of the best running backs in football to start the year, third in the NFL in all-purpose yards. Right? So they should be able to run it, and they should be able to throw it. But the offensive line has to be good. If the offensive line is good, then Daniel Jones is probably going to throw for 300 yards on Sunday. If he can get the time, and if he can continue to play well under pressure, because that has been, I think, one of the biggest areas of improvement for him. He has been, one of the 5 best quarterbacks in the NFL this year when facing pressure. He was really good at home against the Broncos when that happened. Not quite as good against the Rams when he was pressured, but was still, good in that game. So if he can just continue to be good while under pressure, then he's going to be just fine. Just fine. And I do think that the offensive line will be better this week than it was last week because they're not playing on the road. They're not having to run a silent snap count whenever they're having to snap the football. Like if you watch that game, on the road against the Rams, then you could see Jared Verse timing up the snap count because you've got, your right guard signaling when to snap the football. That makes it easier for everyone, especially the defensive linemen, to know when the snap is coming. Like there's this really cool clip of Jared Verse getting a running start, the Colts not snapping the football, backing up, getting a running start, the Colts not snapping the football, backing up, getting a running head start, the Colts do snap the football, and he just runs over Tanner Bortolini. I mean, what are you going to do there? You got a huge human being running at you full speed, and you've got no momentum going forward. And he just bull rushes, runs him over, and then Daniel Jones is then running for his life. I don't think anything like that is going to happen on Sunday at home because they should be able to do a normal snap count with cadence and all of those things. So hopefully we see Matt Gonsalves back playing again on Sunday as well, just because, look, I said it yesterday, I'm not going to do the whole thing again, but he's been one of the best right guards in football to open the season. So between him, a very healthy offensive line, not having to do, a silent count, that should hopefully lead to Daniel Jones having a little bit more time to throw the football than he did last week. And if you give Daniel Jones time, then he's going to have another really nice day. Shane Steichen does an excellent job calling plays, scheming guys open, making life easy on Daniel Jones. The play action, as long as Jonathan Taylor is healthy, the play action is going to be impactful. And the biggest thing, though, you got to let Jonathan Taylor run the football. It has to happen. Last night, thankfully, I didn't bet on the game. But last night, I'm watching the 49ers and the Rams play. And Kyron Williams only ran the football 13 times, and he averaged 5 yards a carry. And that is what cannot happen against the Raiders. The Raiders' run defense, 14th in the NFL in terms of yards per game allowed. And, so it's pretty average, right? It's a pretty average run defense. Jonathan Taylor has to run the football a lot in this game. I mean, I get it. He ended up touching the football 22 times on Sunday against the Rams. That wasn't enough. Jonathan Taylor is the reset button for this offense. If they are, for whatever reason, running into issues, you have got to turn around and hand the football off to him. I get it. It is the Shane Steichen way. Throw to score, run to win, all that good stuff. I do not care. When you have Jonathan Taylor, you have to alter your philosophy at least a little bit to get him going on the ground. Here's my biggest thing, though, with the Colts on Sunday. Good teams win this game. That's the reality of it. They are back at home. coming off of a tough loss. They're pretty healthy. They're the better team. They're the more talented team. They have the better quarterback in this game. You could argue, actually, I don't know if you could argue that they have the better head coach, because like Pete Carroll won a Super Bowl, all that kind of stuff. So you probably can't argue that. But the talent, it's far and away better than the Rams. You're coming off of a tough loss. This is an opportunity to reset, right? Reset kind of everything that's going on. Like, all right, like we lost one that we probably shouldn't have. It should serve as a nice little wake-up call for the Colts. It should allow you to refocus. That's what losing should do to good teams. It should refocus you and say, all right, like this isn't, just like a waltz through kind of thing. Good teams beat bad teams, especially coming off of losses. When I think about the best teams in the NFL, the best teams that I can think of, they don't lose this game. We've seen the Chiefs battle back from an 0-2 start this week. And they're going on the road, Monday Night Football. They're going to play the Jags. And they're probably going to win. If Lamar Jackson plays on Sunday, then they're probably going to beat the Houston Texans because they have Lamar Jackson. And I get it. The Ravens are super beat up and all that kind of stuff. Doesn't matter. Good teams beat bad teams pretty consistently. I think that the Chargers are good. Joe Walt probably not going to play on Sunday. Don't care. If they're good, then they're going to beat the Commanders. And so on. When you look at the best teams in the NFL, one of the things that they all have in common is they usually, not always, but they usually don't lose to bad teams. Then the Raiders, as much as I hate to say it, because I bet them over 7.5 wins, they're a bad football team. They turn the football over. They commit, Geno Smith has thrown 7 picks this year. They commit, turnovers. They commit penalties. They can't really run the football. The defense, can't stop the pass or the run. This is simply a bad football team that the Colts are hosting on Sunday. I believe that the Colts are good. I think they're going to win the game by 2 possessions. That's what I think. Does that mean that that's what's going to does that mean that that is what's going to happen? Absolutely not. That's not what that means at all. But the Raiders are banged up and they're not very good. Brock Bowers didn't practice yesterday. That matters so much. He's their best pass catcher, and it's not even any sort of discussion. So you're potentially going to play the Raiders without Brock Bowers. If that's how that looks, then you have to win that game. Max Crosby, limited participant in practice on Thursday. I get it. The Colts, they're, a little bit banged up as well. Matt Gonzalez, it does look like he's going to play, by the way. He was a full participant yesterday at practice. Grover Stewart didn't practice. Rest, though, he's going to be fine, and he's going to play. But I'm telling you, this is a game that the Colts absolutely have to win because you just don't get games against bad teams without their best player very often. And that is what this is looking like it's going to be. Obviously the Raiders, their injury report, it'll come out later on today, and we'll get a better idea of whether or not Brock Bowers is going to play on Sunday or not. But if he's out, you absolutely have to win that game. Even if he's playing, you should absolutely win that game because you have to take advantage of when you play against bad opponents. That's what good teams do. And if the Colts want to win this division, like they should, they've looked like the best team so far. You can't give games like this away because even though the Texans are bad, that's a divisional game, and it'll be tough for the Colts to win just because it's a divisional game. The Jags, same thing. The divisional games tend to always be tough unless you're playing the Titans, and they're legitimately the worst team in football. So you have to take advantage of games like these. I think the Colts do it. I think they win. I think they improve to 4-1. And then next week, they're playing host to the Arizona Cardinals. And Cardinals definitely are better than the Las Vegas Raiders. But with that being said, it'll be the same thing next week. The Colts are going to walk into that game as the better team, and you have to win those games if you want to win your division. Zack Gray, he's going to join the show today at 11:40. He's going to have bets. I'm going to have bets. It's going to be a lot of fun, as it always is when he joins the show. I wanted to reevaluate the Colts schedule because we walk into we walk into every season and we think that we know who's going to be good, who's going to be bad, and then we end up being wrong on some of those things. And so I wanted to reevaluate it, reassess how difficult or easy of a schedule this is for the Colts, and we'll do that in 4 minutes.
Talk at noon. The Real Jonathan Smith Show. Now, this is Indy Sports Ticket 1430 AM, 93.9 HD2, and always on the free Indy Sports Ticket app.
Welcome back to the Real Jonathan Smith Show here on Indy Sports Ticket. Thank you for tuning in, no matter how you're tuning in, whether that's YouTube, Indy Sports Ticket, if you want to head over there and subscribe. Maybe you're watching on X, _ Jonathan Smith, to follow me there and watch the show there. You can also listen on that Indy Sports Ticket app, which you can download wherever you find your apps. Colts playing the Raiders on Sunday, and it should be a win because the Raiders aren't very good. It's just the reality of it, right? They're 1-3, could be 2-2. You know, had a chance last week against the Bears. They couldn't get it done. And so now they're 1-3. Not much to really be worried about defensively. Geno Smith's having a really bad year, and so on. I wanted to reevaluate the Colts schedule because every year we think we know a lot about these teams, and then the year starts, and then we find out whether or not these teams are good or not. The Miami Dolphins, week 1, that's a bad team. Colts took care of business. Okay, like the Dolphins going to compete for like a top 10 pick this year. And then they're going to have another decision to make on Tua, whether that's buy him out, trade him, whatever it ends up being. And then the Colts beat Denver, a team that I think is legitimately good. Don't want to spoil my picks. Wouldn't be surprised if Denver waltzed into Philadelphia on Sunday and won. That defense is very good. The fact that Daniel Jones threw for 300 yards against a defense that people thought would be good and then have confirmed that through the first month of this season says a lot about Daniel Jones. And then they beat the Titans, a team that everybody knew was going to be terrible, and they were. And then they go on the road and they lose to a Los Angeles Rams team that lost last night. With that being said, that's a Rams team that could very easily be 4-1. Kyron Williams fumbles the football right at the goal line, and they end up losing in overtime in part because of that. Now they're going to play a Raiders team that I expected to, be feisty, fight to be around 500. They're 1-3. They got a lot of problems. They look like a legitimately bad football team. And then the Colts are going to play host to the Arizona Cardinals, a team that I think is good. I probably like the Cardinals more than a lot of other people. With that being said, I still think that they're a really good 2-2 team. They'll be 3-2 more than likely when they host, because they play host to the Titans on Sunday. So they'll be 3-2 when they come into Indianapolis, and that's a really tough team. Like that is not going to be an easy win for the Colts. That's a team who can rush the passer, and they're very exotic with their looks on defense, and they've got good corners, and Kyler Murray's good but not great. Marvin Harrison Jr.'s had a rough go of it, but McBride, one of the best tight ends in football, has had a really good start to his season. So it's like that game I think will be tougher than people thought when the season began. Then they're going on the road to the Chargers. We'll see how healthy they are. If they're healthy and Joe Alt's playing, that's probably a loss. The Chargers that's a really good football team when healthy. And then the Titans, they're bad, as we all assumed. And then they're at Pittsburgh, who's 3-1, but people don't like, even though they're 3-1, and even though Aaron Rodgers had a really, really nice game last Sunday overseas playing against the Vikings. They beat the Jets, not a very good team. They beat the Patriots, and then they beat a good Vikings team. Their one loss came to a really good Seattle team. So that is a really interesting game when, week 9, whenever that game comes around, just because I still don't know if the Steelers are good or not. But as a team before the year, that was, their over-under was set at 8.5 wins. It does seem like they're going to get over that. So I would argue that Pittsburgh's a little bit better than what people thought they were going to be before the year started. Week 10, they get the Falcons at home. Or excuse me, that game's not at home. That game is overseas in Germany. We'll see. The Falcons are weird. They have a week where, they beat the Vikings, and it's like, all right, like this Falcons team's going to be good. The defense is much improved. Here we go. Michael Penix, all that kind of stuff. And then they turn around and then they lose on the road against the Panthers 30-0. And then they beat the Commanders at home last week 34-27. So they're weird. They're very up and down. It's a young team, so it kind of makes sense that they would be up and down. So that's another game where it's like, yeah, I don't know. If the Colts won that game, I wouldn't be surprised. If the Falcons played their best game of the year that week, I wouldn't be surprised by that either. And then they have a bye week, and then they're at Kansas City. They're not winning that game. And then Houston is nowhere near as good as everyone thought they would be. They were the favorite to win this division. In addition to that, people thought Stroud and a new offensive coordinator. They thought the offense would be better. That's not the case because the offensive line is so pitiful. Both of those games feel like games that the Colts should absolutely win now, whereas before the year started, those felt like games that the Colts would split at best. And then they're at Jacksonville. That's probably a loss because they're at Jacksonville. And I know that Jacksonville's 3-1, probably going to be 3-2 after this week. That defense is legitimately good. The question is just going to be whether or not Trevor Lawrence can figure it out. And it's looking more and more like he's not going to. The Seattle Seahawks, that is their Week 15 opponent. That's a loss. They're on the road. Seattle is legitimately good. Everyone's looking at the 49ers and the Rams in the NFC West. The Seahawks may very well be the best team in that division. And then they get the 49ers at home, who are incredibly banged up right now. But by that point, George Kittle should be back. Brandon Ayuk's going to be back. Juwan Jennings should be back. Ricky Pearsall should be back. That game is going to be really tough at home. Then they get the Jags at home. Another game that might be tough. We'll see where they're at that point in the year. And then they're at Houston. And so this went from a schedule before the season where it felt like max the Colts could win 11 games. I think that number's closer to 13 now, just because the schedule just isn't. It's become easier than we thought that it would be. Raiders aren't as good as I expected. The Steelers, 3-1, but not as good as I expected. Houston, those are two games that before the year very easily could have been losses. Now feel like games that the Colts are probably going to win. And so you've just seen, because this happens every year, guys get hurt, teams don't meet expectations. And for the Colts, there's really only 3 games left where I feel like the Colts are absolutely going to lose those games. And that's at Seattle, because that's a really tough place to play, and they're good. That's at Jacksonville and at Kansas City. Every other game is very winnable. So if they were to finish the year 13-4, that would not be surprising. 13-4, that puts you in the mix for, not only winning your division, but also potentially being the 1 seed. With that being said, that Buffalo Bills schedule is an absolute joke. So probably not going to get the 1 seed, but still, you could finish the year as a 2 seed. That would be awesome because then you're playing the 7 seed in the first round of the playoffs. So very excited. I am very excited about the rest of this Colts year. There are so many wins left on the schedule for them, and it all starts this week when they play against the Raiders. And the biggest thing for them, outside of Daniel Jones continuing to play well, they have to continue to be healthy, and they're going to do that this week. Here are the guys that it looks like aren't going to play. Tyler Goodson, probably not going to play. Tyquan Lewis might play. He was a limited participant after not a Thursday after not popping up on the injury report on Wednesday. Kenny Moore's not. He's not going to play. Daniel Scott looks like he's probably not going to play either. Maybe there's some other concerns in there. Michael Pittman Jr. was a limited participant yesterday, but I'm assuming he's going to play. That guy literally broke his back last year and kept playing. Just incredible toughness from him. So I do expect for Michael Pittman to be back out there. Matt Gonsalves and Alec Pierce both look like they're going to make their returns to the lineup starting on Sunday. Matt Gonsalves, full participant yesterday, as was Alec Pierce. He's been a full participant all week. They're walking into this game significantly healthier than the Raiders, who have 2 guys on IR, one of them being their starting left tackle, the other being a starting corner. And then Brock Bowers has a knee. He didn't practice yesterday. I'm telling you right now, if Brock Bowers doesn't play, this could be another 33-8 win for the Colts. Because he is the guy in their offense, even though he looks like tight end number 2 because he just, he can't block. That's his issue. And that's a size thing. We don't have to talk about Brock Bowers and his inability to block because you probably don't really care about that. You care about whether or not he's going to play, and it is up in the air legitimately based off of everything that I have read. Brennan Jackson, linebacker, he didn't practice yesterday. Michael Mayer's dealing with a concussion. He's been a limited participant on both Wednesday and Thursday. We'll see whether or not he plays. If they're down their two best tight ends, Colts big time, right? So those are the only two guys who look like they may not play, plus the starting left tackle and their starting left corner, who are both on IR. So the Colts appear to be much healthier than the Raiders are this week. That's a major advantage for them. One of the things for the Colts, though, that is kind of concerning is the fact that they are running a new corner out there, whether it's Mekhi Blackmon or Jonathan Edwards. And I hope they're good. But Xavier Howard was terrible, and there's a reason why those two guys didn't play over Xavier Howard. There's a reason why the Colts felt the need to go out and add Xavier Howard. And I just hope this doesn't look like last week, where Chip Kelly, Geno Smith, and the rest of that offense are like, you know what we're going to do? We're going to go after Mekhi Blackmon or Jonathan Edwards, whoever winds up being the starter. We're going to attack them all game because we definitely don't want to throw the ball, Charvarius Ward's way. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do. I'm assuming that they're going to start Jonathan Edwards at corner, just because I think that when they brought in Mekhi Blackmon, they were looking at him more as a slot guy. That's what they had him play last week, in place of Mike Hilton a little bit. But so I would assume that that's what they're going to do. That doesn't necessarily mean that I'm right, but that corner slot opposite of Charvarius Ward, of all the things that are going to happen on Sunday, I do think that is the position most worth paying attention to for the Colts, because the secondary is it's really weird. If you have a bad offensive lineman, you can, give him a little bit of help by, doubling whoever he's blocking. If your quarterback isn't great, you can run play action, you can run motion, you can run the football to kind of help relieve some of that struggle, and so on. Like for every position in football, just about, you can do something with another position group to help them. Corner, you're out there by yourself. Sure, you can, roll coverage and bracket a guy and double them and do all these different things. That is, without a doubt, an option. And with corner, though, it's tougher to do that just because there's so much more space that you have to defend. It's why, stopping a premier wide receiver, I think, is tougher than stopping a premier running back. Because premier running backs, you can load the box, you can call run blitzes, whatever. Corner, you're just out there, man. And if the guy you're guarding is better than you, good luck. Because I'm sure that the Colts tried to double Puka Nacua last week and bracket him and give Xavier Howard safety help and all those things, and it didn't matter. So hopefully, whether it's Mekhi Blackmon or Jonathan Edwards, whoever runs out there to play corner, hopefully they can hold their own against a not super threatening Las Vegas Raiders receiving corps. Bets, and more bets. That's what I've got. I've got my 5 NFL bets, my Kirk Cousins bet of the week, and of course, my college football bets as well. Also, a few thoughts on the Major League Baseball playoffs. The wild card round is now over. So the divisional round, I believe, starts up tomorrow. Yeah, tomorrow, Saturday, October 4th. We got Cubs and Brewers. Can't wait for that one. That's going to be a freaking blast. Yankees, Blue Jays, another, divisional matchup. And then you got Dodgers, Phillies. That'll probably be the best series. And then you got Tigers and Mariners. But I'm going to give you my college football and NFL bets in 4 minutes.
It may, one day, be a must-listen for sports enthusiasts.
Yeah. And monkeys might fly out of my butt.
Uh-oh. The Real Jonathan Smith Show on Indy Sports Ticket 1430 AM, 93.9 HD2, and always on the free Indy Sports Ticket app.
Welcome back to the Real Jonathan Smith Show here on Indy Sports Ticket. Thank you for tuning in, no matter how you're tuning in, whether that's YouTube, Indy Sports Ticket. If you want to head over there and subscribe, maybe you're watching on X _ Jonathan Smith, to follow me there and watch the show there. You can also listen on that Indy Sports Ticket app, which you can download wherever you find your apps. Zack Gray, professional sports gambler, joining the show here in an hour to help you make better bets. He does a great job, so he's joining the show in an hour. My bets, though, I'm telling you right now, my NFL bets, write them down, take them. Doing really well betting the NFL this year. College football, fade me. College football has been a brutal experience for your boy so far this year. So if you want to make money betting college football, fade me. If you want to make money betting the NFL, I would roll right along with me. All right, 5 NFL bets as we do every single Friday. I got to be honest, this is a tough week. Really tough for me to get to 5 bets that I liked this week, but let's start with my favorite one. The Vikings are playing the Browns overseas. I'm taking the Vikings -3.5. And it's a Browns thing. Okay. The Vikings, I think that they're a good football team. I am not sure if JJ McCarthy is back yet. It doesn't really matter, though, because that's not why we're making this bet. We're making this bet because Dylan Gabriel is making his first start of the year. And he's having to play against a Brian Flores defense. That's why we're making this bet. If this terrible Browns offense scores more than 10 points against this Vikings defense with a new rookie quarterback making his first career start, I will be absolutely shocked. By the way, it will be Carson Wentz once again playing quarterback for the Vikings. And so I think that the Vikings win this game by at least a touchdown. And this is, once again, this is not a bet on Carson Wentz. This is strictly a bet against a rookie quarterback making his first career start overseas against Brian freaking Flores and that really tough, nasty defense that the Vikings have. So I think Vikings win. Like if they win this game 14-10, wouldn't be surprised at all. But guess what that does? That covers the spread. Give me the Vikings -3.5 against the Browns. For the first time this year, I'm going to bet Monday Night Football. Give me the Chiefs -3.5 on the road against Jacksonville. The Chiefs looked so much better with Xavier Worthy last week against a very banged up Baltimore Ravens defense. I think that the offense continues to play well. Trevor Lawrence has been awful this year. Like the Jags are 3-1 despite Trevor Lawrence, not because of Trevor Lawrence. They could very easily be 4-0 though, which is kind of a crazy thing. So Trevor Lawrence, he continues to struggle. I think Spags and this Chiefs defense, I think they're going to give him way more than he can handle. And I do think that Liam Cohen's a smart guy. I like him. He's just a great character within the sport, going up to Robert Saleh after beating the 49ers and telling him to keep his name out of his mouth and, all that kind of stuff. It was awesome. So he's a great character. Not too sure he's going to be able to fix Trevor Lawrence, though. The one thing going for the Jags that makes me a little nervous is they are very capable of running the football. And when you can run the football, makes everything else way easier. But with that being said, I'm still taking the Chiefs -3.5. I think it's another rough day for Trevor Lawrence. And a large part of why the Jags are 3-1 is because they forced 13 turnovers. That is 3 turnovers a game. I don't think that the Chiefs are going to turn the football over 3 times. So give me the Chiefs -3.5 on the road against Jacksonville. For the first time this year, I'm betting the Colts. Give me the Colts -6.5 against the Raiders. The Colts are good. The Raiders are not. Braden Smith and Bernard Ryman have been good for the majority of the snaps this year. I think they'll keep Max Crosby from absolutely wrecking this game. Okay, the Raiders can't block. I think this is a big Latu game. He might be turning a corner. Like that game against the Rams was by far the best game that we've seen Latu play in his career. I think this is another big game for him off the edge, generating pressure. I think the Colts win this game by double digits at home. I just don't think the Raiders are very good. Wouldn't surprise me in the slightest if Geno Smith threw a couple more picks. It seems like the Colts have had opportunities to create turnovers via interceptions all year in every game. Like they've had multiple opportunities. They dropped 2 against the Rams. And, if they catch one of those, maybe the game winds up going a little bit differently. But either way, love the Colts minus 6.5. Buccaneers versus Seahawks. I'm taking the Seahawks minus 3.5. The Seahawks are so good. If the Seahawks win the NFC West, it would not surprise me in the slightest. Mike McDonald, not Mike McDaniel. Mike McDonald is an excellent head coach. Sam Darnold continues to be really good after being awesome last year in Minnesota. I mean, their defense, Seattle's, it's amongst the best in the NFL. Their offensive line has been arguably the best in football. I don't think it's been, but you could argue it just with the lack of sacks that they've allowed and the running lanes that they've opened up for Chardonnay and Kenneth Walker running back out of Michigan State. So that paired with Jackson Smith-Njigba just all of a sudden being one of the best receivers in football, it's not surprising. There's a reason why they let DK Metcalf go. They don't do that without thinking that Jackson Smith-Njigba is going to be a stud. So you throw all that paired with the fact that the Seahawks are at home, very, very tough place to go win. And then you throw in the fact that the Buccaneers are still pretty banged up. Now, the one thing that I don't like about this bet is I'm betting against Baker Mayfield. And I don't want to bet against Baker Mayfield ever. But this is, I think, one of the 5 best plays of the weekend. So give me the Buccaneers give me the Seahawks minus 3.5 at home against the Buccaneers. Last bet, 5th bet, Titans versus Cardinals. I'm going to take the Cardinals minus 7.5. Look, the Titans are either the worst team in football or they're the second worst team in football behind the Saints. The Cardinals are just significantly more talented. Jonathan Gannon, I think, is a good defensive head coach. They're very exotic. They run a lot of very weird looks. And I think Cam Ward continues to struggle. And the Cardinals cruise in what should be a very easy game. I don't like that I'm betting all favorites. I don't like that. It makes this week's Kirk Cousins bet of the week a little bit tougher. If you're unfamiliar, we take a road underdog on the money line every week because of what Kirk Cousins said last year.
Walk into your trap, take over your trap. Was the line he would say. You go into someone else's stadium and you try to assert yourself.
The best teams in the NFL do assert themselves when they go on the road. And the Broncos have gotten off to a rough start. They're 2-2. They could very easily be 3-1. A little leverage penalty on the road against the Colts week 2 cost them that opportunity. I still think they're good. I think the Broncos go into Philadelphia and hand the Eagles their first loss of the year. The Eagles haven't looked super crisp. This is a great defense that they're playing against in the Denver Broncos. And that Eagles offense, they haven't really ran the ball very well. They didn't complete a pass in the second half against Tampa Bay. And so I think that they just kind of struggle to score points. I think the battle between the Eagles offensive line and the Broncos defensive line is going to be one of the most fun game within the game battles that we see all weekend. The Eagles keep flirting with losing. I think this is the week that it finally cost them. Give me the Broncos on the road, on the money line. They're 3.5-point underdogs. Give me them on the money line, though, to go in there and beat the Philadelphia Eagles. College football starts tonight. Don't waste your time watching the games tonight. There aren't any good ones. We're not getting Virginia versus Florida State like we got last week. This is a very crappy slate. don't mean to be so negative about it because it is football, and I am going to sit on my couch Saturday, and I am going to watch as many football games as I can. But coming off the week we had last week, Georgia, Alabama, Penn State, Oregon, it just feels so underwhelming. You got like Kentucky and Georgia. Air Force Navy at noon will actually be fun, but who cares about that game? Like Penn State, UCLA, Texas at Florida, like that's one of the bigger games of the weekend. So not as good of a slate. Vanderbilt, Alabama, obviously going to be a lot of fun, but aside of that, it's a lot of It's more like interesting lines and interesting storylines that I'm going with this week. Clemson plays North Carolina. I'm going to take Clemson minus 14.5. North Carolina under Bill Belichick. I mean, they're just straight
booty cheeks.
They're bad. And I get it. Clemson, not a great start. They're so much more talented than North Carolina. I am absolutely taking Clemson minus 14.5 to roll North Carolina. This next one's a weird line. Iowa State is a 1.5-point underdog on the road against Cincinnati. Zack Gray is from Cincinnati. We are 1,000% going to ask him about this, line later on today when he joins the show at 11:40. Iowa State's good. They're super banged up. That's why the line is the way that it is. Like both of their starting corners are out. But I'm not betting against Matt Campbell. I get it. They're on the road. They're underdogs. I'm still going to take a Matt Campbell coach team over this Cincinnati team. Texas, I'm taking them minus 4.5 against Florida. I think this looks a lot like the Florida LSU game. If you watch that game, then you know that LSU's offense really struggled, but DJ Lagway couldn't figure it out against that LSU defense. I think that this Texas defense is better. And so I think it's another week where we watch DJ Lagway struggle. I think we watch Arch Manning struggle, but the Texas defense finds a way to win that game by about a touchdown. Vanderbilt, they're playing Alabama. The line would have to be like 20.5 for me to not bet Alabama in this game. Alabama's not going to let Vanderbilt ruin their season 2 years in a row. With that being said, Vanderbilt is a good football team. Okay, Diego Pavia continues to just kind of wow people. He's just competitive and tough and resilient, and he just kind of finds a way. Not this week. Not this week. This is part of improving. Like, you become a team that consistently ends up on other teams' radars. And Vanderbilt isn't sneaking up on anybody right now, especially Alabama after they beat them last year. I think Alabama rolls them after what happened last year. Biggest game of the night, Miami on the road against Florida State. Give me Florida State plus 4.5. Miami, clearly the better team. Clearly the better team. Miami's probably one of the 3 best teams in the country. But there's 4 things at play here that make me like Florida State. 1, it's a rivalry game. Rivalry games are weird. They just are. Florida State is the second thing. They're coming off a loss. I think Mike Norvell's a good coach. I don't think he's a great one. But I do think that he's going to have his team refocus, and I think they're going to play much better than they did against Virginia on the road. And this is the other thing. This game is at Florida State. It is tough to win on the road in college football. That is just a very simple reality of the sport. When you look at some of the upsets that we've seen, a lot of them happen when these teams go on the road. Florida State lost to Virginia last week on the road. Last year when, Alabama lost to Vanderbilt, they lost on the road. It is tough to win on the road in this sport. We saw Indiana almost lose last week, and I think part of it is because they had to go on the road. And so I do think that matters a little bit. So I'm going to take Florida State plus 4.5. And then finally, Mario Cristobal just kind of finds a way to lose a game that he shouldn't every year. That's just the reality of watching Mario Cristobal coach teams. And I think this is the game that happens. Florida State plus 4.5. We'll run a lot of those bets by Zack Gray when he joins the show at 11:40. Best sports gambler that I know. When we come back in 4 minutes, the Colts playing host to a team that they should absolutely beat in the Las Vegas Raiders. It should also be a big day for Daniel Jones. I'll tell you why in 4 minutes.
do this. It's the Real Jonathan Smith Show on Indy Sports Ticket, 1430 AM, 93.9 HD2, and always on the free Indy Sports Ticket app.
Welcome back to the Real Jonathan Smith Show, hour number 2. Underway here on a beautiful, beautiful Friday. Thank you for tuning into the show, no matter how you're tuning in. Whether that's YouTube, Indy Sports Ticket, if you want to head over there and subscribe. You can also watch the show over on X, _ Jonathan Smith, to follow me there. And like I said, you can watch the show there. You can also listen on that Indy Sports Ticket app or 1430 AM if you're cruising around the Indianapolis area. I know there's a lot of places to get your sports talk, so thank you for choosing the Real Jonathan Smith Show. Daniel Jones should have an awesome day on Sunday. It should be another big day for Daniel Jones where I have to come in here on a Monday and be like, yeah, the dude was awesome. That's what it should be. And then all the haters are going to be like, oh, it was against the Raiders. They're 1-4. That's what Monday should be. Because this Raiders secondary is bad. It is the second worst secondary that the Colts have played against this season behind the Miami Dolphins. The Titans at least had L'Jarius Sneed, one of the best corners, or one of the 10 best corners in football over these past few years. And then, you look at this, geez, man. You look at this Raiders secondary. You're going up against guys like Caillou Blue Kelly and Jeremy Chin and Isaiah Pola-Mao and Eric Stokes, who's questionable, by the way. It is just not a very good secondary. All the Colts receivers should be healthy. Michael Pittman didn't practice, or he was a limited participant yesterday in practice. He got something going on with his hamstring. So, this should be a very advantageous day for the Colts to get out there and do Shane Steichen's favorite thing, and that's throw the football and not give it to Jonathan Taylor. I don't know why, but he loves to do that. So this should be another big day for Daniel Jones and this passing offense if they can hold off the thing that kind of makes this Raiders team interesting. They have Max Crosby, who's amongst, forget best edge rushers, forget best pass rushers. Max Crosby is amongst the best players in football, period. That is who he is. He is an absolute menace coming off the edge. An absolute menace. I mean, good luck dealing with that dude. And I say all that, and you say, oh, well, Jonathan, he only has 2 sacks on the year. That means you didn't watch him play the Bears. You didn't hear Caleb Williams after the game say, that is the best football player I've played against in my life. And then you also have to remember that he's getting doubled on every snap. He's getting doubled. And that leaves room for other guys to step up and play really well. And that guy playing really well and stepping up is Jonah Lalu. Say, who is Jonah Lalu? Jonah Lalu is a former Colt who was cut after being drafted in the 6th round by Chris Ballard. Jonah Lalu, from the defensive tackle position, has 3 sacks through 4 games. Gee, wouldn't it be wonderful if the Colts had just a little bit more depth at defensive tackle? Jonah Lalu could have been that guy. But he's not. He's currently playing really well for the Raiders right now. And so the Raiders have a real pass rush. And the Colts offensive line, if it can hold up, it's going to be a really fun day watching Colts football. But that offensive line has to hold up. If it does, then this could be another Sunday where Daniel Jones throws for 300 yards. Because, like I said, the back end of this Raiders defense is just not very good. It's just not. So if Daniel Jones can get time, and when the Raiders do get home, because they do have 2 guys who can rush the passer, so they're going to get home. They're going to be 3rd and 8s where the Raiders find a way to generate real pressure. If Daniel Jones continues, because he's been really good under pressure this year, if he can continue to play well when there is pressure around him, then I feel so good about this Colts team on Sunday. The offensive line struggled a little bit last week against the Rams. And I think a large part of that was the fact that they were on the road and they had to go to a silent count. Silent count is where, like the right guard touches the center or he like extends his arm out or whatever it winds up being. And when you go to a silent count, it makes things easier for the defense and it makes it tougher for your offensive line. Because, tackles aren't looking in to see when the ball is snapped. Like they got to look at whoever they're about to block, especially when those guys are Jared Verse and Byron Young. And when you're doing the silent count, it just makes it easier for the defense to time the snap. There's a viral clip going around right now of Jared Verse. And it's the all 22 view and it's like from the back and so you can see him in the middle of the screen walking backwards, getting like a mini head start, running up to Tanner Bortolini who's playing center, and he'd stop. And then you back up and he'd get a little running head start towards Tanner Bortolini and he'd stop. And then finally he timed it up. He backs up, sprints forward, Colts snap the football, Tanner Bortolini gets trucked, and Daniel Jones is then immediately running for his life because his center just got absolutely trucked by Jared Verse. That only happened because the Colts were doing a silent count. This week, they're going to be at home. They're going to be able to use real cadence, right? Like they're going to be able to be like on two. And then you're actually going to get to hear Daniel Jones say hut or go or, whatever he likes to say, right? Whatever his word of choice is for let the play begin. And that just makes it easier on your offensive line. So Max Crosby and Jonah Lalu, it's going to be a little bit tougher for those guys to get a great jump because I'm expecting for the Colts to mix up the cadence and do all those things. So I don't expect for this Colts offensive line to get absolutely ran through like they did last week against the Rams on some snaps here and there. So give Daniel Jones time, and he's going to have another really nice day. Maybe it's 300 yards. Maybe it's only 250. Whatever it is, I expect for him to continue to play really well. Now, if he doesn't, because that is possible, if he doesn't, then turn around and hand the football off to Jonathan Taylor. I'm still bothered, and it's because I watched the Rams game last night. It still bothers me that Jonathan Taylor only touched the football 6 times in that first half. Look, you don't have to hand it to him. You can throw it to him for all I care. Seriously. I mean, that's legitimately. Just make sure he should touch the football 10 times minimum in each half. I understand that Shane Steichen has this philosophy of throw to get ahead, run to win, all that happy stuff. But your philosophy has to change when you have certain players on your team. I talked about this last week, or maybe it was on Monday. I don't remember. All the days just kind of run together. In the NBA, every team's philosophy is the same. Corner threes and layups. And if we can't get a corner three, then we want a three from the wing or from the top of the key. That is what every team in the NBA is hunting for. But the Phoenix Suns last year took more mid-range jump shots than any other team in basketball. Do you know why? Because they have Kevin Durant. Or they had him. He's playing for the Rockets now. The Suns had to shift their philosophy because they had one of the 10 best basketball players on the planet on their team, and he likes to take mid-range jump shots. So Coach Budenholzer was like, you know what? How about we give Kevin Durant the opportunity to make some mid-range jumpers? That is what should be happening with Shane Steichen. And so, you know what? I want to throw the football a lot. I want to use it early to get ahead and all those things. But you got Jonathan freaking Taylor, a guy who's been arguably the best running back in football to open the season. It's him or James Cook. James Cook's been really good for Buffalo. Run him in the first half. I get it. Throw to get ahead, all that kind of stuff. No. Run Jonathan Taylor. 10 touches minimum in each half. That should be the goal for Jonathan Taylor every single game. It can be screens. You can hand it off to him. Don't care. Just make sure he touches the football at least 10 times in each half. Give Daniel Jones time. Hand Jonathan Taylor the football, and you'll be good. Okay? Here's the other thing with the Colts. Probably my biggest thing with the Colts on Sunday. Good football teams win this game. Good football teams win this game. They're back at home. They're coming off a loss. They're healthier than the team that they're playing, and they're just better. They have a better offensive line. They have a better running back, even though I do think that Ashton Jeanty is going to be a stud at some point. They have the better quarterback. They have the better secondary. The only thing that the Raiders have that is better than what the Colts have is tight end. Love Tyler Warren. Brock Bowers, still going to give him the nod for as of right now. Maybe that changes down the line. But that's the reality right now. Like, they are better in every phase and in pretty much every position except for tight end. The Colts are pretty freaking good at tight end. Daniel Jones is playing so much better than Geno Smith is right now. They are the better team. And good teams don't lose to bad teams like this. It doesn't happen. And if they do lose to bad teams, it's usually a divisional opponent. When I think about the best teams in the NFL, like, they don't lose this game coming off of a tough loss. Like that loss on the road against the Rams should refocus the Colts. It's like, you know what? Like, we're good, but like, we have to play better if we're going to win. And I hope and expect for this to be a very clean game from the Colts. I don't think that they're going to commit 11 penalties. I don't think that they're going to turn the football over 3 times. I think that, their T's are going to be crossed and their I's are going to be dotted. Or at least, maybe they don't dot their I's, but at least they crossed their T's, because they didn't do either one of those things last week, and it cost them. Last week should be a wake-up call a little bit for them. Just an opportunity for them to refocus. And when I think about the best teams in the NFL, they don't lose this game. We've seen the Chiefs battle back from an 0-2 start. They're 2-2, probably going to be 3-2 after they go on the road and play the Jags on Monday Night Football. If Lamar Jackson plays on Sunday, because it's up in the air, I don't think he's going to. But if he does, they're going to win that football game against the Houston Texans. Because it's Lamar Jackson and it's the Ravens. And I just expect for them to win games when they need to. If the Chargers are good, then they'll beat the Washington Commanders, even though they're a little banged up and even though Jaden Daniels is supposed to be back playing for the Commanders, and so on. Because that simply is what good football teams do. They win the games that they're supposed to. And the Colts are 1,000% supposed to win this game, coming off of a game where they gave that game away against the Los Angeles Rams. Okay, they're the healthier team. On top of it, like if you run through the injury report for each team, Brock Bowers may not play. He didn't practice yesterday and was limited on Wednesday. Brennan Jackson, starting linebacker, he didn't practice on Thursday and was limited on Wednesday. Michael Mayer, the other starting tight end for the Las Vegas Raiders, he has a concussion. He's been limited both days. There's a world where he doesn't play. Max Crosby was limited. I'd be very surprised if he didn't play. But you get what I'm saying. They are the healthier team. Okay? In addition, Raiders, starting left tackle, is on IR. Starting corner is on IR. For the Colts, sure, like they're going to miss Kenny Moore. They'll miss Daniel Scott on special teams. Jalen Jones has been missed to start the year, even though I don't know if he runs well enough to really be super effective in this Lou Anarumo defense, but I mean, he certainly would have been better than Xavier Howard. They are healthier, and they simply have more talent on their team, and they are at home. They should win this game by 2 possessions, and that is fully what I expect from them. Okay, the Colts are good. I think, and good teams win this game coming off of a tough loss. So give me the Colts at home. I'm going to bet them to cover and all of that good stuff. Speaking of betting, I have many, many bets to make, and I'm going to give them all to you. Zack Gray is going to join the show at 11:40. We'll talk about some of them. He'll tell me I'm wrong and that I'm dumb, like he did last week whenever I told him I was taking the Alabama Crimson Tide on the road plus 2.5 against the Georgia Bulldogs. And I was right. And I was right. So he's going to join the show here in about 25 minutes, 11:40, to talk about that. I'm very excited for my evening. I'm driving south. I'm heading down to Washington, Indiana. You say, Jonathan, what is in Washington, Indiana? There's a restaurant that my wife really likes. It's down there. And yeah. And while I'm thinking about it, driving down there, you should drive down there and you should go to Holiday World. Shout out to Holiday World for sponsoring today's show. They celebrate the holidays as like an amusement park, as well as any other place that I've seen. Awesome drone show going on right now, celebrating the Halloween season. Get down there, take your kids, create some awesome memories, do those things. You will have a blast at Holiday World during spooky season, as the kids call it. Shout out to Holiday World for sponsoring today's show. Zack Gray here in about 20 minutes. My bets in 4 minutes.
The best takes. Maybe. The Real Jonathan Smith Show on Indy Sports Ticket 1430 AM, 93.9 HD2, and always on the free Indy Sports Ticket app.
Welcome back to the Real Jonathan Smith Show here on Indy's Sports Ticket. Thank you for tuning in. No matter how you're tuning in, whether that's YouTube, Indy Sports Ticket, if you want to head over there and subscribe, maybe you're watching on X __ Jonathan Smith to follow me there and watch the show there. You can also listen on that Indy Sports Ticket app, which you can download wherever you find your apps. And of course, 1430 AM is an option as well. Bets, gambling, part of what makes the weekend a lot of fun. 5 NFL bets is what I give out every Friday. Zack Gray, he's going to give out some as well here in about 18 minutes. He is the best sports gambler I know, so trust me. You're going to want to hear that. 5 NFL bets, and then some college football bets as well, highlighting more just the biggest games on Saturday. So my 5 NFL bets, let's start with my favorite one. We're taking the Vikings -3.5 against the Browns overseas. You say, well, Jonathan, it's Carson Wentz. Do you really want to place currency on Carson Wentz? The answer to that question is no, but I'm not really betting Carson Wentz. I'm betting on Brian Flores and that Minnesota Vikings defense to eat Dillon Gabriel alive in his first career NFL start. I think the Vikings win by at least a touchdown, but if they don't, I will honestly be very surprised if Dillon Gabriel breaks double digits. Like if the Vikings don't cover in this game, it's going to be because the Browns scored a defensive touchdown or two. I think Dillon Gabriel has a really tough time, and Brian Flores just chews this guy up, spits him out, and says, well, welcome to the NFL. So give me the Vikings -3.5. That is my favorite bet of the weekend. Give me the Chiefs -3.5 against the Jacksonville Jaguars. Yeah, give me the Chiefs, man. I'm not convinced about the Jaguars yet. You heard Frank Schwab yesterday talk about how, he thinks that the Jags are a very fraudulent 3-1 team. There's a lot of turnovers. They're forcing over 3 turnovers per game so far to start the year. The Jacksonville Jaguars are. I just don't think that the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes are going to turn the football over 3 times. I would honestly be surprised if they turn it over once. Okay, and the Chiefs have looked significantly better with Xavier Worthy. Trevor Lawrence continues to struggle, even with a new head coach. I think, Spags gives him a very tough time, and the Chiefs win behind a really good performance from their defense, and they cover. I think they win by at least a touchdown. Wouldn't surprise me, though, if they beat them by double digits. For the first time, I officially have the Colts on my, 5 NFL bets of the week. I'm taking the Colts -6.5 at home against the Raiders. The Colts are good. The Raiders are bad. It's really that simple. Braden Smith and Bernard Raymond, or Ryman, however you're supposed to say it, have been good for the majority of the snaps this year. I think they'll keep Max Crosby from wrecking the game. Now, don't get me wrong. Max Crosby will have an impact because he's just that good of a football player, but I don't think he'll wreck the game like he almost did against the Bears last week. The Raiders cannot block. Laiatu Latu might be turning the corner. I think he's going to have another really nice game. Colts should win this game by double digits. They're better at quarterback. They have a better offensive line. They can actually run the football. Give me the Colts -6.5 at home against the Raiders. The Buccaneers are playing the Seahawks. I'm going to take the Seahawks -3.5. I don't really like this bet, but I give out 5 every week, so this is what we do. Seahawks -3.5. The Seahawks are good. Everyone's talking about the Niners and the Rams and, they could win the NFC West, all that good stuff. But if the Seahawks won the NFC West, I would not be surprised at all. The Seahawks, or Sam Darnold, continues to be good after his time in Minnesota last year. Their defense is amongst the best in the NFL. Their offensive line has been nothing short of spectacular. Jackson Smith-Njigba is one of the best wide receivers in football. The Buccaneers are still banged up, a little bit healthier than they were to start the year. Chris Godwin's playing. Tristan Wirfs is back, but the right tackle is hurt. Mike Evans is hurt. So, you pick up two very important pieces just to lose two more. The thing I don't like about this bet is I'm betting against Baker Mayfield. Don't love that, but we'll see how it goes. It's also a really tough place to play. It's on the road. It's in Seattle. That is, I think, the toughest place to win in the NFL. Super loud, very, very passionate fans up there in Seattle. So give me the Seahawks -3.5. Titans, Cardinals. The Titans suck. And I may just bet against them every single week. They are either the worst team in the NFL or the second worst team in the NFL. It's them or the New Orleans Saints. The Cardinals are just significantly more talented. That's just the very simple reality of it. Jonathan Gannon, I think, is a good defensive coach. I think Brian Callahan's the worst coach in football. Jonathan Gannon, I think, does a really good job of confusing Cam Ward this week, which is with all the exotic looks that they like to show. I think that leads to more Cam Ward struggles, and the Cardinals cruise. I don't like that I'm betting all favorites, but hey, this is what I like this week. But we do take an underdog every single week when we do our Kirk Cousins bet of the week. For those unfamiliar, every week we take a road team that is an underdog on the money line because last year Kirk Cousins said this.
Walk into your trap, take over your trap, was the line he would say. You go into someone else's stadium and you try to assert yourself.
You try to assert yourself. And the best teams in the NFL, they usually do. And I do think that the Broncos are good despite the 2-2 start. They could very easily be 3-1. They're a leverage penalty on the road here in Indy against the Colts away from being 3-1. So they're a good football team. I think this is a great defense. You could argue that it's the best in the NFL. And I think for me, the matchup within the game that I'm most excited to watch on Sunday is in this Eagles and Broncos game. Watching that Eagles offensive line try to deal with this Broncos pass rush, I think is going to be a lot of fun. My thing is the Eagles offense just hasn't been very good this year. I think they continue to struggle. They keep flirting with losing, and I think this is the first week where they actually slip up. Give me the Broncos to go into Philly and win despite being 3.5-point underdogs. College football starts tonight. Don't watch the games tonight. The slate, I'll be honest, for the whole weekend is not great. That's just the very simple reality of it. Like tonight, you got Western Kentucky and Delaware. Charlotte's playing South Florida. San Jose State and New Mexico. West Virginia and BYU could have been interesting, but West Virginia has a million injuries and BYU's favored by 20.5. And then Colorado State, 1-3. They play San Diego State. You don't want to watch that. Hang out with your wife tonight and have a good time. That's what I'm doing. So tomorrow, real games begin, and there's not a lot of great games on, but there are some interesting lines. We are going to take Clemson -14.5 against North Carolina. North Carolina, they're just
booty cheeks.
They're terrible. They're so bad. Coach Belichick can't seem to get it going. That's, a problem for them. Iowa State, we're going to take them +1.5 on the road against Cincinnati. Iowa State's incredibly banged up. That is why they are underdogs in this game. It's the reality of it. But I'm not betting against Matt Campbell. I know that Cincinnati went on the road and beat Kansas last week. I do not care. Give me Iowa State. +1.5. Texas plays Florida Saturday. I'm going to take Texas -4.5, even though I don't really love it. I think this game looks a lot like Florida versus LSU. If you watch that game, then you know that LSU's offense really struggled because Florida does have a viable defense that has actually looked good this year. The issue is DJ Lagway, this 5-star freshman who was thrust into the starting lineup last year because a guy got hurt, Graham Mertz, because he got hurt. And he walks in and he plays really well. And everyone's like, oh, DJ Lagway. He's the next guy. And he's been awful this year. Threw 5 picks against LSU. I think this is a very similar game where the Texas defense just overwhelms Florida and Texas wins this football game. Vanderbilt's playing Alabama. I'm taking Alabama -10.5. The line would have to be 20.5 for me to not take Alabama. I think they dog Vanderbilt. I understand that Vanderbilt's a legitimately good football team now. Like, they are good. Like one of the best offenses in the country when you look at the numbers and all of these things, right? And it's Vanderbilt, so everyone's really excited about them, and everyone's rooting for them because they're Vanderbilt. That's just the reality of it. With that being said, it's Alabama. Also, Vanderbilt hasn't played anyone good this year. They beat Charleston Southern, Virginia Tech. They won at South Carolina, but Lenore Sellers got hurt in that game. They beat Georgia State, and they beat Utah State. Like this is their first real game of the season, and I think they come back down to earth a little bit, and Alabama rolls them after what happened last year. I don't think that they allow for Vanderbilt to be the team that ruins their season 2 years in a row. Miami, they're playing Florida State. This is the game of the day, the game of the night. I'm taking Florida State plus 4.5. Miami is clearly the better football team in this game. No question about it. Miami is likely one of the 3 best teams in the country. But there's 4 things at play here that make me like Florida State. 1, it's a rivalry game. Rivalry games in college football, they're just weird. They always are. And so I think that kind of plays in Florida State's favor. Florida State's also coming off a loss. I think Mike Norvell's a good coach. I don't think he's a great one, but I do expect for him to be able to refocus his team and for them to find a way to win. Not a way to win, a way to be competitive and look much better than they did on the road against Virginia. I also think that part of this as well is Carson Beck can't run around like Chandler Morris can, the starting quarterback at Virginia. So being able to keep him in the pocket and not have to worry about him taking off and running the read option and doing those things, I do think that helps Florida State. The game's also at Florida State. It's tough to win on the road in college football. It's why the Oregon win is so impressive. And the game is at Florida State, a team that already beat Alabama at home this year. It's really tough to win on the road in college football. Like when you look at upsets, a lot of them happen when the higher ranked team goes on the road. You know, Vanderbilt beat Alabama last year in Vanderbilt. Florida State lost last week on the road at Virginia. So I think the fact that the game is at home for Florida State, that's a major, major thing. And then you throw in the fact that Mario Cristobal tends to lose a game he shouldn't every single year that he's been a head coach. And that is not me, overstating anything there. Seriously, I mean, I'm telling you, Mario Cristobal recruits really well. Some of the in-game management stuff is not great. I think this is the week that we see them lose a game that they shouldn't, because Florida State is a really good team, and that's a tough place to go win. So give me Florida State plus 4.5 to close out my bets for the weekend. Zack Gray is joining the show here in about 4 minutes. He's going to give us bets. We'll keep doing our sharp versus square stuff. It's a lot of fun when he comes on. Zack Gray in 4 minutes.
Here's the real Jonathan Smith Show on Indy Sports Ticket 1430 AM, 93.9 HD2, and always on the free Indy Sports Ticket app.
Welcome back to the real Jonathan Smith Show here on Indy Sports Ticket. Thank you for tuning in. No matter how you're tuning in, whether that's YouTube, Indy Sports Ticket, if you want to head over there and subscribe. Maybe you're watching on X, _ Jonathan Smith, to follow me there and watch the show there. You can also listen on that Indy Sports Ticket app or 1430 AM if you're driving around the Indianapolis area. I am now joined by the best sports gambler known to man, Zack Gray at ZG the Grapevine on X. If you click the link in his bio, it'll take you to his Patreon where he sells tools to help you make better bets. Zach, what's going on, man? How are you?
Jay Smith, what's up, man? I'm doing well.
Dude, I'm doing so well. Dude, just super pumped to have you on. Kind of disappointed because we're coming off of an awesome football slate last week where it felt like Saturday and Sunday were just filled with these awesome games. And then this week, it's just like, it just feels so underwhelming, you know?
I don't know, man. These are the type of weeks that usually have a couple bombs dropped on them.
I'm glad you said that because there's a bet. I'm not doing it for our sharp versus square, but I did want to run it by you that I am really, really excited about. Speaking of sharp versus square, you ready to go?
Yeah.
Okay, so for the listeners who don't know, every week Zach, like I said, professional sports gambler. He's the sharp. I'm the square. We're going to see who's going to bet better this year. And so far, it's him. We are both 2-1 in the NFL. I bet the Packers last week. That didn't hit. They tied. Zach took the Bucks and Eagles over 43.5. That cleared pretty easily. And Zach, I'm just going to tell you, if you want to make money, just fade whatever college football bet I give. I am 0-4. Zach is 2-2 after Kansas didn't cover last week against Cincinnati. So I will let you go first in the world of college football. What bet do you like?
I was thinking through, and we have more than one bet for Patreon users, and I was thinking, what encapsulates this week when it comes to betting? What do I feel great about? And I landed on Texas. Texas minus 4.5 against Florida. I just, for as bad as we think Arch Manning is, DJ Lagway has been arguably worse. And Texas is just, they have more goals in front of them. They have their entire season ahead of them. They're national championship contenders. It's their first game in the SEC slate. I feel like they're just going to get right here. And now I don't think Arch Manning is going to turn it on and be some superstar all of a sudden. I just think they're going to figure out a way to kind of manage the way their roster is constructed. Their defense is really, really good. I think this is over a touchdown game. I could see this one getting ugly late. Maybe it's a 7-point game or 6-point game or something like that. But I see Texas kind of pulling away, winning by at least 2 scores towards the end of the game.
Joined by Zack Gray at ZG the Grapevine on X. He's a professional sports gambler. Check out the link in his Patreon. It'll take you to his Patreon where he sells tools to help you make better bets. I like this bet as well. I feel like this game looks a lot like Florida versus LSU, where LSU's offense doesn't look great because Florida's defense, I think, has been pretty solid this year. But like multiple turnovers from Lagway, maybe a pick 6 in there, and that's why Texas kind of winds up covering. You there?
What's yours?
Oh, yeah. Sorry. I was just trying to say that I agreed with you. I am taking Alabama minus 10.5. Zach, this line could be 16.5, and I think I would think about taking it. I just like the memory has to be fresh for so many of these guys. The game's at home. I know people love Vanderbilt right now. Like if you look at some of the numbers, they're at the top of the country and all these offensive stats and all these things, but they've played Charleston Southern, Virginia Tech. They played South Carolina without Lenore Sellers. He got hurt in that game. Georgia State and Utah State. I would hope if that was my schedule that I would have really good numbers as well. I think this is their first test. And after what happened last year, I think Alabama just absolutely throttles them.
Jay Smith, I don't understand your weird thing with Alabama.
I was right last week.
You were right, but you also weren't like that. You were right on paper, but the essence of your take on Alabama, I still think is very wrong. Like, how long does Vanderbilt have to be super competitive in the SEC? They beat this team last year. Like, why do we assume that Alabama is going to throttle them when basically all of Vanderbilt is back?
I think
and
there's two differences. One, Jalen Milroe's not playing quarterback for Alabama anymore. I do think Ty Simpson's better than Milroe. And the games at home, I think winning on the road in college football is legitimately difficult, especially when you're playing against a team like Alabama, who I obviously like more than you do, but I still think you'd agree that Alabama's a playoff team. And winning on the road at a playoff team's place is really tough to do.
I don't agree that Alabama is definitely a playoff team.
They're talented like one, though. Would you at least agree with that?
Sure, but when does that ever matter? There's other teams that have been just as talented that miss the playoffs every year.
And Vanderbilt's not one of them.
Vanderbilt very well could be one of them.
I don't know, man. I just maybe I'm getting caught up with the Vanderbilt thing. I do think that the mental side of this, though.
How long till Vanderbilt? You go, okay, Vanderbilt's real.
They've been good for 1 year. Like, they were good last year.
But they have shown it. They've literally shown it against this exact team.
Alabama just went on the road and beat Georgia. This team's a little bit different than the one from last year.
But here's the thing, Jay Smith. You wouldn't use that same transitive property for Michigan. You're only using the rivalry between Alabama and Georgia as a way to prop up your idea of Alabama, knowing that, if you were talking about Michigan or Ohio State rivalry, you would not use that same logic.
That's a fair point. Even though I would take Ohio State, I'm going to take Ohio State over Michigan this year. But no, like that's a fair point. But I do think that Alabama's better this year than they were last year, just because they're better at quarterback.
And they might be better at quarterback. I don't know if they are.
Man. I mean, some of those Milroe games were brutal.
They've played 2 games, and Simpson lost his first game against Florida State and played well against Georgia. That sounds like Milroe. Plays good against, let's say, LSU, and then drops a turd against Oklahoma. Like, that sounds pretty similar so far.
You're going to disagree with me on this, and that's okay. Once again, joined by professional sports gambler Zack Gray, very passionate about college football, if you can't tell. At ZG the Grapevine on X, check out the link in his bio. It'll take his Patreon where he sells tools to help you make better bets. I thought the issue with Alabama in the Florida State game was more about the offensive line's inability to block Florida State than Ty Simpson. I feel like he was running for his life quite a bit in that game.
You're going to get your heart broken by Alabama this year, and we're going to come on here one Friday, and you're going to go, Zach, you were right.
That may happen. It probably will. It'll be all right. All right, let's go to the NFL. I'm going to go first here, just to kind of.
Oh, there's nothing to talk about in the college football slate this weekend.
We'll go back to college football. I just want to make sure I write our bets down because I didn't do that last week. I'm going to take the Vikings -3.5. I don't like the idea.
Oh, you stink. That was mine.
Yeah, I think you took mine a couple weeks ago. So now I feel it's even now. It's even now. I like the Vikings. It's not a bet on Carson Wentz. It's a bet on Brian Flores playing against Dylan Gabriel in his first start. That's what it is for me.
Yep, that was exactly my logic. My model likes it as well. I'll pivot. I'll go Giants +2 at New Orleans.
I like that one as well. That's a good bet. Which I don't think you want to hear that from me because it's the NFL. I've bet that really, really well this year.
I think Jackson Dart adds an element to the Giants that Russell Wilson couldn't. Like, there's just like a little more juice there. I don't necessarily think Jackson Dart is going to light the world on fire, but you kind of saw it last week. They just kind of figured out a way to win. Malik Neighbors isn't there, but they have Wandale and Slayton that can be serviceable. Scattaboo in the backfield. Like, I just think there's like a new juice to the team with Dart leading them.
I agree. Scattaboo helps with that, or Scattaboo, excuse me. He helps with that as well. They're just tough. Like, I watched them play. Like, the front seven's really good. Brian Burns is leading the NFL in sacks right now. I think New Orleans struggles with their defense, and I think, like you said, Jackson Dart brings a little extra juice on offense that they desperately needed. I have 2 college football questions for you. My first one, why is Cincinnati favored over Iowa State? Is it just the injuries?
Yeah, I think so. I think this is a weird line. I actually have a play in this game. I'll kind of keep that. I'll text it to you. Okay. I have a play in this game, but what I'll say about it is it just is a weird line. I would not expect it to be Cincinnati being favored, even though Cincinnati may be a play. It's very strange to me. I feel like Matt Kimball is going to coach circles around Satterfield. It's just a matter of whether Sorsby is, the veteran that takes care of the ball, that makes plays with his legs, throws it around. Like, there's good and bad versions of Sorsby. And if Iowa State can figure out how to rattle him, it's going to be a bad Sorsby day, and Iowa State runs away with it. But they played well against Kansas, even though they shouldn't have won that game. They shouldn't have even covered that game. And then Iowa State's Iowa State. I believe in them more than most, I think.
Now, I know you said last week that I don't believe in Matt Campbell, but everything you said is kind of what I thought about the game. Like, I saw the line and I was like, what in the world? So, okay, I was just kind of curious your thoughts on that. We've had a few weird lines, and I like asking you about those over the past couple of weeks. Second question, or I guess this is more of my take, and I would like for your response to it. I love Florida State plus 4.5. I think this is the week where we get the weird game that Cristobal loses.
Very possible. This is a weird game because I do think Florida State is going to come out and play really well. I just don't know if it's going to be enough to cover. Like, Florida State could come out, play really, really well. Hell, they can even play one of their best games of the season. They lose by a touchdown. It only takes one play for Ruben Bain and that defense to really flip this one on its head. That's what I'm scared about. But I think that Florida State's going to come out with their hair on fire. I think they're going to play tough and hard for 60 minutes, regardless of the outcome. And yeah, this is a real test for Cristobal. Like, it's going to be a close game. You almost blew it against Notre Dame with your clock management and coaching. Like, if we get in that situation, do we really trust them? I think you're right.
I definitely don't. Joined by Zack Gray, professional sports gambler at ZG The Grapevine on X. Check out the link in his bio. It'll take you to his Patreon, where he sells tools to help you make better bets. Yeah, I like Florida State. I think they're a really good team. I thought Chandler Morris's legs were a real issue for them last week, and a large part of why they lost. Carson Beck doesn't offer that as much as a guy like Chandler Morris does, so that's part of why I like them.
Shout out Chad Morris.
Dude, no, Chad Morris can go kick rocks. I did want to ask you, so we talked about this off the air. I have a lot of Reds fans who listen to the show. You yourself are a Reds fan. You said that the Reds upset you a little bit in their playoff series, and that's made you not want to watch the rest of it. What did the Reds do to kind of make you feel that way?
Well, first of all, they were so clearly the worst playoff team by a long shot. Like, if we're being honest, they really didn't deserve a playoff spot, and it was cool that they got one. But when you just look at it, it's like, okay, Hunter Green, you're supposed to be ace, gets rocked in game 1. You go into game 2 and you use Littell, however you say his name, as an opener. He gives up a run in the third, and that's when you need to get him out and get your best relievers in. You wait till they give up a 3 spot, and now your best pitchers essentially don't even pitch in the series. Like, our best relievers and Abbott and all those guys didn't even really pitch. So it's like you didn't even give yourself a chance with some of that. And, the Reds offense didn't have any timely hitting, bases loaded, no outs, can't muster up a run. Like, it's just all of the things that everyone hated about this team this year, all condensed into 2 games. And, the most predictable thing ever is that they can't win a playoff series or even a playoff game at this point. It's just, I quit being a Reds fan for a couple of years, and I watched them make the playoffs, and I was like, you know what? Like, let me support my team. It's the same stuff, man. I just can't find it in me right now to be passionate about the Reds anymore. They've just constantly hurt me, and they've like let me down at every turn. I feel like they do things that are the antithesis of winning, and it's just like at a certain point you can't keep putting your time and energy into that.
Totally fair. Yeah, and it doesn't help that you're playing the Dodgers either. Like they're so good.
Well, that's fine.
Yeah,
that's fine, but you're playing the Dodgers and you're not putting yourself in the best position to win.
Yes, agreed. That's what I was saying. Like, you can't not throw your best relievers and not have timely hitting and beat a team as loaded as the Dodgers are.
Yeah, and I think this Reds team wins 75 games next year and misses the playoffs. Like, a lot of variance this year. Like, this roster is not talented enough. Guys that you thought were going to be something haven't really worked out. Ellie De La Cruz seems like he's real and he's only getting better, but you got to have more than that. I can't imagine that the elite starting pitching that they saw this season, you can't bank on that being the same. Like, this roster isn't good enough. It's got too many holes.
Totally agree. Zach, I am over on time. Thanks for your time as always, dude. Hopefully both of our bets hit and people make money. See you, buddy.
Yep. Thanks, Jay Smith.
That is Zack Gray. Check him out on X at ZG, the Grapevine, best sports gambler that I know. That includes the Sack Man. The Dan Dockett Show comes your way next. Loaded day. Coach Venturi. We got Anthony Lima from Cleveland, and we got Sylvie from Chicago talking about the Cubs advancing to the divisional series. I'll talk to you on Monday starting at 10 a.m. Have a nice weekend. The Dan Dockett Show comes your way next.